News network between the headlines, streaming live on X and on X, on Trump Daily Post and Next News, as well as on our flagship YouTube channel, and on Rumble and Twitch, and on Facebook. So if you're joining us on all platforms, welcome. You're here. The show will begin shortly. We're going to get the latest out of the White House, give you all the happenings there. And we have news as well on, we have some Iran news. We got a polling firm, major election fraud discovered. Wait till you hear this one. And a tragedy that the blood is on the hands of the previous administration yet again. And we're going to get into that as well. But first, our White House rundown. Good evening. I'm Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network, bringing you everything that moved out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue over the past 24 hours, streaming with our partners at Trump Daily Post. President Trump just declared what he's calling economic D-Day against Iran, the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. In his words, after the regime in Tehran refused a deal. He said their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their factories are gone, their currency is worthless, and the country is hanging by a thread. He put every nation on notice. Give Iran an oil smuggling route, a swap line, a ship registry, or a front command, and you'll eat tremendous economic consequences right along with them. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. He also signed a new national space transportation policy today. And the First Lady expanded her signature initiative in the Rose Garden. So let's get into the day. According to the guidance, the president opened at 8 a.m. with executive time, taped a radio interview at 9, ran a policy meeting in the Oval at 11, and held signing time at 2, all close to the pool. Pool call was 9 a.m. this morning. And from the morning's pool report, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stopped outside the White House and told reporters he expects bond prices to keep falling and the oil spike to come back down once the economic action lands. He confirmed the national debt crossed $40 trillion and said growth is how you beat it. And he torched a Democrat attorney general over corporate welfare, pointing straight at the nearly $1 billion tariff refund target collected on Chinese and foreign-made goods. Reporters shouted questions about economic D-Day and Iran as the sky opened up on them. The rain stopped the second Bessent walked away. The press office dropped a lunch lid until 1:10 p.m. Shortly after, country star Luke Bryan turned up in the briefing room and took photos at the podium. No word on why he was in the building. At 3:48 p.m., the President and First Lady Melania Trump walked into the Rose Garden, roughly 200 chairs, soft jazz, 88 degrees, and humidity so thick you could cut it with a knife. Her opening line, "Good afternoon. I hear you've missed me." Kevin Hassett, Doug Burgum, Jared Agan, and Mark Wayne Mullen were all in the seats. Drivers Scott Dixon, Alexander Rossi, Graham Rawl, and Scott McLaughlin handed her a commemorative hat. Roger Penske spoke 18 minutes start to finish, and it began 10 minutes early. President Trump stood with her and let her have that moment. In a White House statement, IndyCar and Fox Corporation donated $2 million to fund Fostering the Future scholarships at Indiana University and Purdue, pushing the networks to 26 schools. An IndyCar race car wearing Be Best and Fostering the Future branding sat right there in the Rose Garden. And it runs the Freedom 250 Grand Prix right here in Washington this weekend on Fox. Cabinet secretaries fanned out across the country. RFK Jr. in Dubuque, Chris Wright in the Permian Basin, Sean Duffy in Grand Rapids, Doug Collins at the Omaha, Virginia, Howard Howard Lutnick in Bakersfield, Kelly Loeffler in Indiana, and Mullen in Alaska. Vice President J.D. Vance heads to a manufacturing plant in Brewer, Maine on Monday. In 24 hours, Tehran squeezed 1,000 launches a year, targeted by 2030. Foster kids handed a path to a degree, and that's a government that's working. Now, that is your White House rundown for the last 24 hours. All right, let's get into the top stories that are shaping the nation right now, shaping the globe, and welcome you guys to the program. Great to see you here, Corinne and Tom and Cindy and Cynthia. And IV2XLR8 now is here as well. So it's great to see all you guys here in the chat room. Light it up. Light it up, guys. We'll make sure that all the briefings for our Signal Corps members are dropped shortly after these segments are published on the channel. Make sure you're sharing and telling your friends about the channel and help us bypass the continued suppression of our work. What do you guys think about that new format? The Next News Ninja? Did you see that? Take a look at it. I want to know your thoughts. Okay, we're going to get into our first story with Iran. This is big news right now. 89% inflation inside Iran. Food prices up 164%. President Trump calls it economic D-Day. And the USS George Washington strike group just pulled into the region behind it. The mullahs are broke, and their foreign minister ran to a microphone to talk about American debt. And you're gonna watch why. So no one has given, quote, the Islamic Republic of Iran a greater opportunity to make a deal than me. That is President Trump's own post. Tragically for them, they failed to take it. So now Tehran pays. Every dollar the Ayatollah holds funds the proxies that shoot at our sailors. And every hand on the Strait of Hormuz is a hand on your gas pump. Coming up, I'm going to roll President Trump's line about the Strait nobody in legacy media will report. And Iran's foreign minister calling this economic terrorism. And new tonight from the healthcare desk, open enrollment pressure is building again across the country, and a familiar problem is back in the headlines. Millions of seniors overpaying for Medicare year after year, while the mailers and robocalls keep coming. Big insurance profits from that confusion, so here is the part that they cut for time, Patriots. There is a newsroom for your Medicare. It's called Chapter. Independent Medicare advisors, the only advisors comparing every plan nationwide, not a narrow list. Every plan. Chapter reviews your doctors and prescriptions and reports back with the truth about your file. Already covered right? Well, they'll confirm if you're already on the best plan. If you're not, they'll help you switch. One call, under 20 minutes, and it costs you nothing. The number is on your screen, 910-728-4109. That's 910-728-4109. Economic pressure is squeezing households worldwide tonight. Don't let your own budget get squeezed at home. So, quote, right now the strait is open and lots of boats are coming through. People aren't reporting that. That's President Trump from his own mouth. The experts swore that it would spike oil. It didn't. And now look what Tehran's foreign minister said in response. Let's get those receipts rolling for you. A major development would reshape the entire Middle East. U.S. aircraft carrier USS George Washington and its strike group have arrived in the Middle East amid tensions with Iran. So another carrier group has arrived. Now President Trump names the operation Economic D-Day, warning any nation that gives Tehran a lifeline.
Overnight, President Trump announced economic D-Day against Iran as he calls on other countries around the world to support the United States. The president indicated that if any country provides a financial lifeline to the Iranians, they'll face their own economic consequences. The president posting to Truth Social saying no one has given the Islamic Republic of Iran a greater opportunity to make a deal than me. Tragically for them, they have failed to take it. Therefore, today I am announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. This will be economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. On Wednesday, the president described the state of play amid reports that the United States is still overseeing vessels through a safe corridor out of the Strait of Hormuz to export millions of barrels of crude oil each day.
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through. People aren't reporting that, and that may slow down a little bit at some point. But right now, a lot of boats are coming through. The naval blockade has been extremely effective.
The Iranians have responded to the president's comments overnight, with Iran's foreign minister saying the so-called economic D-Day is a diversion from America's own crisis, unprecedented debt, and surging interest costs. The foreign minister goes on to say doubling down on failed policies will only bring further defeat and enmity of Iranians. U.S. economic terrorism threatens global economy and sovereignty worldwide. Now, regional intelligence sources tell Fox News there are growing indications of economic hardship inside of Iran as a result of the U.S. naval blockade and economic isolation. Reports do indicate that inflation in Iran has reached 89%, with food prices up 164%. The conflict here is clearly shifting to economic warfare, but the question remains, will this pressure from the United States lead to an agreement or a return to war?
That's the question. So that's the announcement. President Trump's own words now on the crushing economic D-Day right here. Trump says the U.S. has launched its largest ever economic operation against Iran. This is his Truth Social post here. No one has given them, the Republic of Iran, greater opportunity to make a deal than me. Tragically for them, they have failed to take it. Now, the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country is underway. Iran's foreign minister calls it economic terrorism. That's what he says. Trump announced what he called the economic offensive against Iran.
The president indicated that if any country provides a financial lifeline to the Iranians, they'll face their own economic consequences. The president posting to Truth Social saying no one has given.
Trump says the U.S. has very draconian sanctions available against Iran, but adds right now the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through, and people are not reporting that.
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through. People aren't reporting that, and that may slow down a little bit at some point. But right now, a lot of boats are coming through.
Iran's foreign minister says the economic D-Day is a diversion.
The Iranians have responded to the president's comments overnight, with Iran's foreign minister saying the so-called economic D-Day is a diversion from America's own crisis on President.
That's Iran's side of it. News Nation's Rashid Hudson on the shift from military strikes to squeezing them financially.
President Trump is turning to economic pressure to get Iran back to the negotiating table. He's calling it economic D-Day. More from News Nation's Rashid Hudson.
After months of military strikes, President Trump is now trying to squeeze Iran financially. The president announced what he calls, quote, the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country, and warns other nations they could pay a price for helping Iran. The president said countries allowing their banks, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide Iran an economic lifeline could face tremendous economic consequences.
Wow. Economic pressure abroad. At home, Treasury Secretary Bessent doubling bond buybacks with long-term rates at their highest since 2007.
The Treasury is taking steps to bring down long-term interest rates after they hit their highest level since 2007.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is doubling the size of government bond buybacks, essentially buying more of the government's own debt to try to bring rates down.
It shouldn't be a surprise.
Analyst Adam Coons is with Winthrop Capital Management.
We know that the Trump administration has had a strong desire to get interest rates down, and I think the Fed is a little bit backed into a corner, so there aren't a lot of positions that they can take to decrease rates.
The concern is that high long-term rates can make things like mortgages and business loans more expensive.
Rates are the story on Wall Street, too. Walmart posts strong quarter. The outlook sends the stock tumbling.
The Treasury yields rebound is dragging stocks down this morning, as is a disappointing report from Walmart.
Walmart's an American institution. Huge stores, huge car parks, stacked shelves. Walmart doesn't so much speak as roar. It put up a strong performance in the April to June period, but its outlook was cautious, sending its stock tumbling. Walmart's e-commerce sales are surging, however, with the CEO touting price, speed and convenience as it takes on Amazon. Walmart sees itself as a tech company these days that trades at the NASDAQ as it pushes AI in stores, delivery trucks, and now drones.
Drone delivery, right? Well, what do you know? And shifting gears, a driver charged with vehicular homicide after plowing into a Michigan University cycling team in Tennessee.
A driver faces vehicular homicide charges after he allegedly plowed his car into a cycling team from Milligan University in Tennessee. 2 sophomores were killed. 7 of their teammates were injured. They were on a training ride 11 miles from campus. The technology company Flock is making changes to its license plate reader cameras amid growing privacy concerns. News Nation's Danielle Dukin has more.
The modifications include an audit feature to flag potential misuse and a requirement that law enforcement users provide a case number when conducting searches. The changes come after reports of law enforcement misusing the technology through data sharing and improper searches. Another
Flock finally doing something, but they should all come down. A new Emerson poll shows Democrats leading Republicans by 8 points ahead of the midterms. This should be pretty scary.
A new Emerson College poll shows Democrats with an 8-point lead over Republicans ahead of the midterm elections. Sophia Vento is the campaign editor at The Hill.
Trump's sour approval ratings paired with anxieties about the economy and the ongoing war in Iran have definitely, taken hold in the electorate, and Democrats definitely have the upper hand going in. We've seen polls ranging from 4% to 8% today to even 11%. So we'll definitely see if Democrats are able to pull it off, but the odds are definitely in their favor right now.
The poll also shows growing support for the Democratic Socialists of America party. It also shows Secretary of State Marco Rubio leading Vice President J.D. Vance.
Rubio leading Vance in 2028. Is that right? So, Iran's foreign minister called American pressure economic terrorism and blamed our debt and interest rates. Bread in Tehran costs 164% more than it did, and that's his answer. When your people can't afford food, you change the subject. President Trump gave the ayatollahs the door, and they spit on it. Hold the line on every European bank and every foreign airport still quietly feeding Tehran cash. No carve-outs, no quiet exceptions. President Trump has the regime on the mat. And the only thing that loses this is going soft in month 3. Watch which allies flinch. And when the establishment press tells you strength is reckless, remember 4 years of unfrozen money bought the rockets that killed Americans. Everybody watching knows it. So share this video with the patriots in your life, because the same outlets pushing an 8-point Democrat poll won't tell them Iran is broke and oil is under 100. And drop your take in the comments. And there's one more thing I want you in on tonight. That carrier that just parked off Iran's coast, that kind of thing lands with us before it lands anywhere else. So text White House to 844-840-4963 and we'll put it on your phone nightly straight out of the building where we are credentialed inside, no matter what YouTube feels like showing you. Reading it is step 1. Step 2 is having a job. Text Signal to that same number, enlist in the next news Signal Corps, and take real missions with real ranks from a command center built so this network survives losing any single channel. So get in with us tonight. All right, moving right along. That last story about the polling is very interesting because it leads very sharply into what was just discovered about a polling firm actually polling and delivering fake poll results. So we're going to get into that story right now. Okay. And we have the name too. All right. Median Strategies published a poll showing Francesca Hong up 23 on David Crowley. It was fake. Karen Bass up 12 over Nithya Raman, also fake. The firm admitted it in writing, pulled every release, locked the doors, and won't give up one name. Bass won by 5 points. Hong lost outright. Now listen to what they called it all. A short-term social experiment. And that's the firm's own written statement for poisoning 2 American elections. And here's why this matters for you and your family. Local news ran those numbers. Social media ran those numbers. Nobody made one verification call. Laura Trump went on Fox Business and laid out the mechanism cold, and I'm going to play her exact warning about 2016 internals. Then I'll show you the sentence where Media and Strategy says it's declining interviews and hiding every single name. Yeah, that's what they're doing. You see, chasing down a firm that vanished without leaving one name behind will drain a man, and I've learned that the hard way. That exhaustion is not a character flaw, it's cellular. Studies point to your mitochondria as the batteries that power everything that's running down. That's why I dug into red light and near-infrared light therapy, one of the most well-researched tools out there. Health journalist Jonathan Otto walked me through the science, and I started using it myself thanks to him. It helps cells produce more energy, reduces cellular level stress, and supports natural repair processes. Red Life, that's the company. Their products have 9 clinically studied wavelengths with dual chip technology, twice the power of standard devices, built to actually work. Go to myredlight.com/NNN. The link's in the description below. Use NNN Rep 25 for individual items, NNN Rep 30 for bundles. 30% off bundles, 25% off individuals. Stock is limited. Now back to the phantom pollsters. Not seeking publicity or attribution for the individuals involved. That's the line that cowards hide. And look at the numbers, how they got inflated. Nitya Raman, DSA, Francesca Hong, DSA. Back in August, we showed you the DSA coalition on this show. And now we'll get to the posts. Let's dive in. This polling firm, now admitting to fake polls. My View host Laura Trump warns fabricated election polls can influence voter behavior after now shuttered firm called its fake surveys a social experiment.
Polling sometimes is not typically designed to just reflect sentiment. Sometimes it's designed to sway elections. And I think you go back to 2016 and look at all the polling, especially for Donald Trump. I remember looking at those polls back in 2016, and we all knew from our campaign our own internal polls reflected a lot different sentiment from the American people. But whenever you see that your candidate is either very far ahead or very far behind, sometimes you're not really incentivized as a voter to get out and actually vote. And that's why this is such a problem.
Of course it's a problem. They're manufacturing reality just like the social networks do. Fake polls are one kind of predetermined outcome. Ted Rall has another. A DOJ whistleblower named Haley Van Arum says the anti-Semitism probes were decided before the evidence ever came in. DOJ whistleblower complaint, who quit last year after being assigned to the anti-Semitism probes. They were predetermined.
Complaint through the whistleblower process at the Department of Justice. And she quit last year. She was assigned to these anti-Semitism probes as part of the Trump administration involuntarily. When she got in there, she found that the outcomes of the investigations were, quote, predetermined without regard to evidence in a political mandated effort, end quote, to shake money out of schools through settlement demands and funding freezes, that the anti-Semitism thing was a complete pretext, and also that there was a strong racism motivation here, that they specifically, quote, targeted some Middle East studies faculty for the content of their work and other professors for their Muslim faith. And many of those professors were fired.
He says professors were targeted. Producer Robbie West got a demand of his own. Apologize to God's chosen people or lose the church account.
My attention of your anti-Israel bias. And if you're going to continue working with First Baptist Church, you must publicly apologize to the Jews, to God's chosen people.
Here's my apology.
And you must do so on the show that you used to slander the God's nation of Israel. This is
it's your big chance, Robbie. You have the mic right now. Go ahead. It apologize. Repent.
I just sent him the link. Fuck Israel. And fuck you and your apology.
Wow. His on-air answer, F Israel and F you and your apology, I'll never do it. West says he served the cross and not the star. Ted Rall went to the chatbots with a straight historical question and says every one of them refused to answer it.
So I was researching that, and all of them, when I said, please compare this tactic with similar tactics that Nazi Germany might have used during World War II, and they were all programmed to say that there is no such comparison. Israel is engaged in the process of going after a violent military adversary. They have to. They're defending themselves from 2023, and I'm like, I didn't ask you about. I'm not asking you about October 7th. I'm not asking you about that. I'm just saying, did Nazi Germany ever go in to do similar things? So when I rephrased the question and I said, take out the comparison with Israel, and I'm just like, okay, did Nazi Germany ever go in and detonate buildings after saturation bombings in areas that it occupied? And the answer is yes, it did.
He says he read Columbia's detailed anti-Semitism report carefully, saying there's nothing there.
Looking into it, I mean, Columbia is the school that is deemed to be, even under the DOJ whistleblower stuff, like the likeliest to actually have some truth to the anti-Semitism claims. So I read the detailed Columbia report on anti-Semitism. I read it very carefully. There's nothing there. Nothing. It's long. It's kind of like there are words, and there are many of them, but there's literally no there. If you like.
The hosts say that a polling firm should be prosecuted for flooding the fake polls in the market, calling it election interference.
The excuse after the fact of, we just were running an experiment. A, I don't know that. B, what I do know is you flooded fake polls into the market that could have had outsized effects on the election itself. I would even make the argument that it was election interference. People could have looked at that. It's very possible that people looked at this El Said poll, for example, and said, well, he's 14 points up. I don't need to go to the polls.
Right.
Okay. It could have had a depressing effect on the vote. Absolutely. You shouldn't be able to screw with elections in this way. And the excuse after the fact, well, we're just running an experiment. Sure.
Right.
It's like you go into the store, steal something, you walk out, they catch you, and you're like, I'll just check in whether your security worked.
Let's compare, right? Russian so-called interference in the 2016 election boiled down to about $200,000 in Facebook ads by a private, non-government affiliated troll farm in Russia called the IRA, the Internet Research Agency.
$200,000 in Facebook ads. Got called an attack on democracy. Chris Cadence has the firm's own admission. The Hong poll showing 23-point lead.
Polling firm that released data showing Hong defeating Crawley by 23 points admitted that the data is fake and is shutting down. Polling firm shuts down after admitting to delivering fake data. The polling company called Median Strategies was created as a short-term social experiment to examine how purported polling information could enter and spread through the political information ecosystem without independent verification. The company told the LA Times, "We are not seeking publicity or attribution for the individuals involved in our declining interviews." Median Strategies has concluded its polling project and will not publish additional polls, they said in a statement. All previously published polling releases have been withdrawn and should not.
Short-term social experiments. Here's more.
I'm not sure if there is legal ramifications of this, but we definitely need to clean this up going forward, because if an independent company can come in, report some data that is fake like that, what are we really doing with these polling numbers? What are these polling numbers drawing from? It's like we need more resources or information on how are they doing this polling.
Where are the numbers coming from? He says fake polls keep voters home, and the people behind this one probably should be in some legal trouble. I agree.
And also, polling be influencing some people to be like, oh my God, well, this person is going to win so much, I might not even get up to vote. Or my person is losing by so much, why am I even going to get out to vote? It is not good ethics. And the fact that these people wanted to do it as an experiment, it's just like, this is shameful behavior. I don't know if they can get in trouble legally or not. They probably should.
Yeah, they probably should, right? Armstrong Williams puts names to the damage.
Median Strategies put out a poll showing Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass up 12 points over Nithya Raman, a Democratic Socialist of America member running against her. It put out another one showing Francesca Hung, also DSA, leading David Crowley by 20 points in the Wisconsin governor's race. Local news picked up the numbers. Social media ran with them. And now the company says the whole thing was a social experiment to see how fake polling spreads without anyone checking it first. Bass ended up winning by 5, not 12. Crowley beat Hung by a hair, nowhere close.
So Bass won by 5, Crowley won outright. Williams delivers the verdict on what this really was.
Call this what it is. Democracy is not social experiment. This is manipulation, and it worked exactly as designed because outlets ran with numbers nobody verified. Whether you agree or not that this really was a so-called social experiment, it succeeded in showing the public something it already knew, that posters are often wrong, many are biased, and the media will choose whichever poll helps narrate its agenda.
I would add, not a social experiment, a social crime. $200,000 in Russian Facebook ads got 9 years of hearings, indictments, and congressional panic. Median Strategies seeded fabricated polls directly into Los Angeles and Wisconsin, confessed in writing, and walked away anonymous with a shrug from the same press corps. You see what they did here? Shoplift get caught and tell the cop that you were just testing security. Names. Every name behind Median Strategies. And every editor who ran those numbers without one phone call owes a correction at the same volume as the original story. And folks, you already knew. You knew in 2016 when the poll said one thing and your own neighborhood said another. So tell me in the comments, what poll did you watch get blown to pieces on election night? Share this with a guy who almost stayed home because the race wasn't close. Because that's the whole game. A number on a screen talks you out of showing up. Don't let it. Trust your eyes, trust your neighbors, and vote anyway. And if you want the stuff nobody's laundering before it reaches you, listen up. Median Strategies got to hide their names. We don't hide ours. And we don't wait on somebody else to verify reality for you. Text White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network holds credentials inside that building, and every night what our people pull from those halls lands on your phone with nobody at YouTube standing in the doorway deciding how much of it you get. And of course, reading it is only the first step. Some of you want a post to hold, an action to take. So text SIGNAL to that very same number and enlist in the Next News Signal Corps. Real missions, real ranks, and you move up as you work to save America. So get in tonight. All right, moving right along. Our next story this evening, a tale of tragedy. And footage of Mayorkas getting confronted. The look on his face. Just so smug. You'll see it. We've got it. We're going to bring it to you. Heather, Resto, Jeremy, Corinne, Dawn, Tom, Bill's Rules. Good to see all of you here tonight. All right, let's get into it, Brian. April 2024, El Paso. Border Patrol had Alexis Cedelios Campos in custody. He hands agents a Maryland address, and Joe Biden's DHS turns him loose. 2 years later, Carmen Lizette Punch, 42 years old, a mom, stabbed to death by a hiking trail in Great Falls. And what he did after she was dead is even worse. Talking about 450,000 children who went missing under the Biden administration. President Trump's DHS has found 146,000 of them, so do the math with me. Nearly 300,000 kids still gone tonight, and Secretary Markwayne Mullin says he had to stop smiling when he read the case files because some of those kids were raped repeatedly. A number I don't even want to say on camera. But that is what Biden's open border bought. So stay with me because I'm going to roll a clip where Julio Rosa corners Alejandro Mayorkas in an airport and asks him point blank if he regrets any of it. Watch what Mayorkas says, but watch his face if you do anything. And now a separate bulletin, and it's one the networks keep off the crawl. Open enrollment pressure is building nationwide, and millions of seniors are overpaying for Medicare. So, Patriots, this is not an accident. Big insurance runs on confusion, the mailers, the robocalls, the fine print, and the people who profit from it. They're not going to fix it. And here's what didn't make the broadcast. There is a newsroom for your Medicare. It's called Chapter. Independent Medicare advisors, the only advisors comparing every plan nationwide, not the handful some call center gets paid to push. Chapter reviews your doctors, your prescriptions, and reports back the truth. If you're already on the best plan, they will confirm it. No obligation, no pressure. If you're not, they'll help you switch. One call, under 20 minutes, and it costs you nothing. The number, 910-728-4109. Somebody should be investigating your file now. Let's get back to what happened in Great Falls. Fairfax County detectives say that the murder appeared to be premeditated, and Sedilios Campos tried to set Carmen's corpse on fire. He tried to burn her. This was not a fight that got out of hand, and Fairfax is a sanctuary jurisdiction. Now let's take a look at these posts together. DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen exposed the pure evil, innocent children trafficked across the open border.
Of the worst. You know, I tell people that I haven't quit smiling since I've been Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, but I have to take that back because when we start digging into these cases and you start hearing the absolute horrific things that took place underneath the Biden administration, under true neglect at best and criminal at worst, to allow 450,000 kids to go missing throughout this country. President Trump has made it a point to go find these kids. And because of our partnership with HHS and DOJ, Department of Homeland Security, truly using the best, which the Democrats sometimes want to demonize because a lot of times this is ICE, this is HSI, this is CBP. These individuals that the Democrats seem to want to defund, but because of President Trump, we finally funded them for 3 years. We're able to push and go find these kids. We found 146,000 kids so far. 146,000 kids. We still have nearly 300,000 missing. We're investigating reports to where some of these kids claim that they were raped 600 to 700 times. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you have kids, if you don't have kids. I don't care if you're a liberal, you're independent, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. If you can't stand for law enforcement to go find these kids, who are you? Who are you? Every leader should understand what's going on. And do you know where we're finding the most of them? Sanctuary cities. Because they know they're safe.
Not anymore. They're all getting hunted down. 146,000 found, nearly 300,000 still missing. So hold on to that number. The devil whispered in my ear, "You're not strong enough to withstand the storm." Today I whispered in the devil's ear and said, "I am the storm." Let's get back to the story here. The 2025 crime numbers just dropped and violent crime fell 9.3%, the biggest annual recorded record. In Fairfax County, police say the 19-year-old Alexis Antonio Sedelos Campos was arrested.
Fairfax County Police announcing this morning they've arrested 19-year-old Alexis Antonio Sedelos Campos for the brutal killing of Carmen Lisette Puch, a 42-year-old mom who was found stabbed to death near a popular hiking trail in Great Falls. Police say the two of them were co-workers and had an intimate relationship.
Fox reports DHS confirms he crossed illegally in El Paso in April and was apprehended. by Border Patrol.
Relationship. Now, DHS confirms to Fox that Cedillos Campos crossed the southern border illegally in El Paso, Texas, back in April 2024. That's where he was apprehended by Border Patrol. Federal sources tell Fox he gave agents an address for his father in Maryland, and then he was quickly released to the country by the Biden administration.
It's just another Maryland man, right? Here's the part that matters. DHS confirms he crossed.
Fairfax County Police say the murder was especially brutal, appeared to be premeditated, and Cedillos Campos tried to set Puch's corpse on fire.
No one deserves to be treated the way that our victim was treated, and she was stabbed repeatedly by our 19-year-old.
Blaze Media's Julio Rosa says Alejandro Mayorkas how it feels to see that the U.S. border has been secured.
I wanted to ask you how it feels to see that the United States has a secure border now that President Trump is in office, as opposed to when you were Secretary of Homeland Security. Do you have any regret facilitating an open border, sir?
Yeah. He just cornered on camera by Julio Rosas. Here's more.
Border crossings are down 95%.
Security announcement. Please maintain.
Do you regret allowing Tren de Aragua to gain a foothold in the United States, sir?
Unattended baggage is subject to search, inspection, damage, and removal.
You don't have anything to say, sir, about your time as Homeland Security Secretary?
Of course not. No answer. So he goes at him again.
Facilitating an open border? I mean, it was a big...
Still nothing, and it reminds him why President Trump won.
Do you have regret about losing track, of facilitating the losing track of all those thousands of migrant children that are handed over to HHS?
Please move forward to next door. Please do not enter the corridor. Doors are closing. Please clear the door.
How does it feel that because of the Biden and Harris administration's policies, mass deportations actually gained the majority support? I mean, sir, Tren de Aragua didn't have a foothold in the United States before you guys came into office. It's a pretty big issue, right?
Oh, wow. Wow. But you heard him say, quote, "No one deserves to be treated the way our victim was treated, stabbed repeatedly by our 19-year-old killer." That's a Fairfax County detective saying out loud about a woman who'd be alive tonight if Alejandro Mayorkas hadn't turned that kid loose at El Paso with a scribbled Maryland address and a bus ticket. Subpoena the people who signed those release orders. That's our demand. Not a hearing, not a task force. Names, testimony, consequences. Carmen Lizette Puch is dead. Almost 300,000 children are still missing, and Alejandro Mayorkas can't get one sentence out in a hallway while a recorded voice tells him the doors are closing. Nobody's been charged. Nobody's resigned. Nobody's said sorry. And here's what proves it was a choice. Crossings down 95%, violent crime down 9.3% last year, murder down 18.1%, biggest drop ever recorded. It could have been fixed any day. They picked this. Say her name in the comments and share this with somebody who still calls it a talking point, because the fight over who gets to know this stuff is its own battle. Cedillos Campos was in federal custody, and legacy media buried that detail. So let's get you the reports before they get sanitized. Text White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network carries credentials inside that building. And what our press pool pulls out of there lands on your phone every night ahead of whatever YouTube decides you're allowed to see. Now, reading it is step one. Some of you do want a job. You want an assignment. You want to take action. Well, text that word signal to the same number. Enlist in the next news Signal Corps. We'll tell you exactly where to push a story like Carmen's. Real missions, real ranks in a command center. So come get in the room with us tonight. All right, that is the broadcast for this evening. We've been toying with the idea of doing a early show, sometime around maybe like 11 o'clock, and then an evening show. Would you guys like that? That way we could get a little bit more news out. We have the shorts too that help as well, but I just want to get your thoughts. What's up, James, Jeremy, Dawn, and Subi, and Mike, and Lynn? Let freedom ring. F&A Ranger. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Love you guys. Well, that's a wrap tonight. We will be back tomorrow with more news. So make sure you have your notifications on. Make sure you have your text messages engaged so that we can make sure you get the news when YouTube decides otherwise. That's why we set up that number. That's why we have the Signal Corps in effect. And if you haven't joined it yet, make sure you do. It's pretty cool. It's a whole command center, leaderboard. Every action earns points. But I think the most impressive part is the briefings that are unlocked when you take action. That's, I think, probably one of the coolest things. And then those briefings are actually branded for your call sign. So when you share them, people will read it, and they'll see that that briefing was specifically prepared for you, whether it's the presidential daily briefing that we create, or it's our next news intelligence assessment based on each of these reports. You see, there's a lot of stuff we can't fit into the actual segment, and those intelligence briefings and especially the presidential daily briefing, that in itself holds a lot more information than we can even fit in that White House briefing that we do at the beginning of these shows. Because I get all of the pool emails, I get all of the press releases, I get them all from the White House. And that's how we draft the White House report for you every night. But again, there's a lot that just doesn't fit in there. So you'll get a lot more detail if you really want to know what's going on. And that's straight from the press pool. So that's a real special thing we've got for you guys, but it's only available to Signal Corps members. So that number I'll put back up on the screen if you want it. 844-840-4963. That's how you get plugged in. So thanks for joining us tonight, guys. I love you. Have a wonderful evening.